Okay, Sarah Curtis, Amy Chmelecki, thanks for joining us on Air Sports News.
Thank you, Regan.
Thanks for having us.
It's I feel like I'm interviewing Arizona Arsenal with half the team.
In a way, you are.
The OGs.
Is the team still going, the VFS team?
No. I think 2 or 3 years. 3 years ago was our last competition.
Right. We'll get into that in a little bit, and I want to talk a lot about Project 19. But before I go any further, and with proper introductions of you two, I want to take a moment to talk about 2 days ago with the Highlight Pro demo team at Seneca Falls. What a moment, what an event that was.
Yeah, it really was. It was the kickoff for our season. So that was a big deal for us. And yeah, we've been working for this, everybody right now is like, okay, plan something, plan something, replan. Should we do it? I don't know. What's safe, what's not, how to be respectful, So we just we have this message. It's really important for us to bring that forward, everything we stand for with our team. So we decided for some of the demos we have where we can navigate through them respectfully in this environment and do our work. And it was great. We kind of at the last, well, not super last minute, but a few months ago, we started, obviously we're not going to have big crowds at the demos. So we went to a live feed production and, that was our first one. We didn't want to promote it too much in case we had some major glitches, but we're going to keep making it better and better. And we're stoked about the next few demos coming up.
It came off really nice. The quality of the production was amazing. The audio and the visual was top class broadcast quality. But the emotion that came out of it, what was the name of your speaker, the MC girl?
Carolyn Chow. She's a skydiver. Yeah.
What a great job. The emotion she was conveying. I told you I was already in goosebumps. I had a few little tears watching it. It was such an important moment, I thought, for the, not just for skydiving, but for your movement as well.
Thank you.
Sarah, let's get into a little bit about who you two are. I just touched a minute ago about the VFS team. I've got to wind my brain back a little bit. Remember, with Air Sports News, we've got people watching as well who don't know much about jumping out of planes, about skydiving. With a lot of the sports we cover, it's quite easy to explain how that sport is done and how they compete. Where do you start with jumping out of planes, with parachuting? There's so many different bits of it. Tell me a bit about the team that you did and what that is, how you compete.
Well, the team that Amy and I were both on that started in 2006 was called Arizona Arsenal, and it was a free fall discipline in skydiving. So it's the part of skydiving from the exit to when you open your canopy. And what we would do is jump out 4 people together with a camera person as a team. The camera person's filming the 4 people, and the 4 people are flying on their heads or on their feet in relation to the relative wind, so that's pretty fast, and doing set maneuvers for time. So those 4 people would get a draw of coordinated maneuvers, and they would repeat them over and over again within a 35-second time frame. Then we'd break off, open our canopies, and land.
Great explanation. And it's very much related to the traditional way of competing in free fall with the 4 on the bellies. But this, VFS, a lot more skill involved, a lot faster movements as well with the turns.
Yeah, I mean, the traditional way of doing 4-way, which is kind of one of the top disciplines in skydiving, is you do the same type of maneuvers, but on your belly to earth. So this is basically a spin-off of that. Once people started flying in new orientations, head down, upright, you name it. The people wanted to compete in the same type of speed rounds, but in vertical orientations.
And Amy, this is the team that you two were both part of, of course. When did you meet? How did you start competing together? Did you know each other for a long time before that team?
My memory of Sara, I remember seeing her. She's originally from Canada. We imported her. I remember seeing her. She had a crew. They would always kind of come to different boogies. I'd see them a little bit. and we're around the same age. She was always like, oh, who are those girls? Let's hang out. We'd see each other. And then Sara came to a women's record training camp that I was doing at Skydive Arizona. And she came to like learn and figure out more. She wanted to be on the next women's record. And she met Steve Curtis, and they like quickly fell in love. They got married. Next time I saw them at the record, they were like, hey, did you know we're engaged? I was like, yeah. That was, what was that, Sara, now?
That was 2005.
Yeah. So.
2005. So it's been quite a long time. And you've both accomplished so much in the sport. You're well respected worldwide, up there with your team of the elite, really. And you've come up with the idea of this Project 19, celebrating the 19th Amendment. It's 100 years this year, 101 years next year. How did that idea come about?
Well, every few years, usually about every 3 or 4 years now for the past while, Amy and I, with the help of Melissa and several other top free fly ladies, have been running vertical world records for women. So it was something we were planning on doing anyway, but we actually had the WSN approach us and say, hey, we want to do a 100-way to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. Is that even possible? And we were like, wow, what a great idea. We got to think about it, because it's going to be a big jump from, 63 to 100. So we talked it over and worked with the WSN and decided to go for it.
And the WSN, the Women's Skydiving Network, they're sponsoring the whole thing. This has never been done for a 100-way big way before.
Not that I know of. There has been some fully sponsored record attempts. I was part of one a long time ago, but it was about half the size. This is a big endeavor. What is so cool to me about this endeavor and all of the things that the WSN has been sponsoring, like, we are taking our sport and combining it with a purpose that we've all stood for. We want to see more women in the sport. We want to kind of promote these ideas of equality at large, and we're able to kind of use our sport and our voice at the same time, and alongside of the mission of like showcasing what we do, and then also encouraging people to go out there and vote. It's just like a win-win all around for all of the things we love combined into one, and purpose and our sport. And
yes, it is. I mean, I think a lot of skydivers struggle with that. I've been jumping out of planes 30 years, and you just feel like I'm not really doing much for society, really. I was talking with Melanie last week about this. I'm burning jet fuel. We're up and down. We're not really doing much, and you are doing this. You're bringing a purpose and a worldwide focus on what's happening. Sara, can I ask you about the Women's Skydiving Network? Where does that come from? How did that start?
Well, two women started the Women's Skydiving Network several years ago. Jeanette and
Christy Frickin.
Jeanette Lefkowitz and Christy Frickin started it. And it was originally to promote leadership in skydiving. The original name was the Women's Skydiving Leadership Network. And they basically, I think they started it around Paris Valley, and they were, helping women learn to be better coaches, just basically promoting leadership of women in the sport. And then slowly it grew and grew. They opened an official business and got some sponsorship, and it just kind of went gangbusters from there.
Fantastic. And let's mention as well, you two, of course, organisers of the Project 19, and we've also got Anna Moxness and Dominic Hijer and Sharon Pilsner and Melissa Lowe. Is there anybody, have I missed anybody out there?
There's a few more key players that are a big part of like our decision making. Stephanie Strange helps us a lot. And then we have all of the regional captains, which we started this year. And they're really a big part of the ultimate success.
And Melanie, we don't want to forget Melanie Curtis too, who's also co-captains with Amy on Highlight, and she helps us with Project 19 a lot as well.
Yes. Yeah, the Highlight Pro team, How did that branch off? Did that come from the Project 19, or was it a separate entity altogether?
It is connected. Originally, we were going to do one demonstration jump into Nashville on August 18th. Nashville is a really important city. Tennessee is where the 19th Amendment went from a state to state. Once you had 2/3 of the state legislators pass it, then it becomes a federal amendment. It becomes a federal law. So the day it was passed in Nashville, that's when it was passed in the United States. So that day was 100 years ago on August 18th. So Highlight was planned. It wasn't Highlight yet. It was just Mel Curtis, and she asked a few of us to help her. We were just going to do one demo, and we all got together to do some filming. Sara was with us. Karen Lewis Dalton was with us, and we did some filming, and we kind of saw some potential in what we can do with this team, with us. And so that's where it was born. And it was just one idea, one demo. And from there, what did you say? Gangbusters? Yeah.
It's just incredible. 1893, New Zealand, the first country to legalize voting for women. It sounds insane that we had a time 100 years ago where women couldn't vote. I think you're really capturing the media's attention. Do you feel like you are with this attempt? I mean, you've got a professional team of PR people working on it with you. Do you feel like you're making traction?
Yeah, it seems like, our PR team is awesome. Liza from Ditto PR, when she starts approaching news teams for anything we've got going on, she's always getting a really positive response. I think news people right now are excited about anything positive because there's so much difficult stuff in the news right now. So it's really nice to show, as long as we're doing it in a respectful way and caring about the situation in each place, that we highlight what we're doing. They seem to be all about it.
So around the world now, many drop zones are opening up. You guys in Arizona there, you're already back in the skies. Can you tell me a little bit about the process, how it's different now than before the pandemic, when you arrive onto a parachute center? What's different?
I would like to applaud Skydive Arizona because they really are doing a great job. Sara and I were training earlier today, and they have hand washing stations set up throughout the drop zone. And they have a mandatory mask rule when you're in the hangar and in the plane. And they have the packing, they've reconfigured the tiles. They have these like soft cushiony tiles. They kind of have them, kids have them to play on, but that's what we pack on. And they reconfigured them where you have to be socially distanced when you're packing. So there's a massive amount of respect for the coronavirus and for figuring out a way to continue working and for people to continue to do their thing and continue to have fun and do it in a way where we can do our best to slow the spread and not overwhelm our healthcare system, which in Arizona, it's kind of rough right now. So.
And Sara, it was planned to be 100-way this year for the centenary. How did you move with all your organisers and all the people to the logistics of shifting it a year? Was it as easy as just saying, guys, it's going to be next year? I'm sure it wasn't. Tell me a little bit about the logistics of that.
Well, it was a big decision. It kind of happened organically because, as you remember, the coronavirus hit in Europe first. So the European nations were starting to struggle with it before North America really had much going on. And the majority of the skydivers on the record are either American, North American, South American, or from Europe. And then there's a few smatterings of other countries for sure, but that's the bulk of everybody. So we had a tryout camp and a training camp scheduled in Europe in March and April, which was going to choose literally 1/3 of our whole team. So as soon as we realized that wasn't going to happen, those events were unable to happen, We decided at first just to kind of delay it till maybe fall. We hadn't really for sure, picked a time yet. But as time went on, it became pretty clear that international travel was going to be, very difficult, to say the least, to come to, whether, we moved the location somewhere else in the world or not. Every nation would have trouble getting to wherever it was, and we had no idea where the virus was going to go and how it was going to proceed. So pretty early on, we made the big decision to move it to 2021. And once that decision was made, it was a big relief because we were able to start putting into place other types of training, our link ups and some online stuff, and just kind of everybody around the world, all the girls were like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we can kind of take a breather. We don't have to be stressing about this event that we want so much to be a part of. And we're still, we've got fall, winter 2021 chosen, and we're going to do 101 way, by the way, which we're really excited about. But we haven't set our exact date and location yet because we're still feeling out the situation.
And Amy, anybody that's watching now who say he's just qualified at AFF, who's done some tunnel and is looking at what you guys are doing as just completely out of their reach, what is the next step for them? How do they feel part of this? How do they get involved?
People ask me all the time, where do I start? And I generally say start from the beginning, which seems like obvious, but it wasn't to me at first, right? I kind of would want to start a bit further ahead than I could have. But if you've already done your tandem, that would be the beginning, right? Go to a skydiving place and do your first jump. And then after that, if you're into it, if you like it, get your license. So there's different programs. Most people do AFF. And then after that, you can do your training, kind of enjoy those first few hundred jumps, do belly jumps, get some tunnel time. And then you can start to do different orientations, head up, head down. There are definitely faster tracks depending on the resources you have available. You can do a lot of tunnel time, you can do a lot of jumps, but not everybody has those resources. But you just kind of take each step at a time. These days, a great way to do it if you kind of have a little bit of freedom in your career. You can always get a job as a tunnel instructor. That's what most people are doing these days to get better faster, that maybe don't have the financial resources to pay for all the tunnel time and all the jumps. But mostly it is a pretty long road, but it's a great road. It's a super fun road. So it's not like, oh, it's going to take me forever to get there. It's going to be like, yeah, you get to do all these things in between. Because for me, it's never been about just the destination. It's always been about the road. So that's what, if you can enjoy that, then it doesn't matter. You just take one step at a time and have fun. And that's the beauty of skydiving. It's super fun and we're always learning. There's no real final destination. You just keep having fun. Yeah,
you really have to enjoy where you are, don't you? There's always somebody with one less jump with you, and there's always somebody with one more jump with you. You've got to enjoy that moment. Can I take that in a different direction? And both of you, I'll start with Sarah. Tell me about, Sarah, your first skydive and how it made you feel inside and what it was that was different about it compared to what you imagined it would be like. It was in Canada, wasn't it?
It was. It was in Canada. I had met a guy in a bar and he said, hey, want to go skydiving this weekend? And I was like, sure. So we went. It was pretty cold. We were not even quite sure if there was going to be snow. We went up there and everything proceeded as planned. It was out of a little Cessna. I was like, wow, we're jumping out of that little thing. And I had no preconceived notions about skydiving. I didn't even know regular people did it as a hobby. I thought it was only military. So I was really excited to learn. It was something I could try. In my mind, I thought it was going to be very quiet and peaceful, almost like the feeling of flying in a balloon. I didn't have any preconceived notions that there would be a lot of wind force on my body. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but it never crossed my mind. So when the door first opened and he started to push forward and we're going out the door, I just was totally floored. The sensory overload was like, whoa, I didn't expect that at all. We got out, there was another guy jumping with us, and I remember thinking he looked like a little spider that dropped it down from a web in front of me. I remember thinking about trying to breathe with all the air rushing through. And then when the canopy finally opened and we were flying around under canopy, I was overwhelmed by how beautiful it was and just how seeing everything from up high and all the feeling of moving back and forth under canopy I loved. We had a great landing, and when I got to the ground, I was just like, what just happened? I only remember like a little bit of that. I think I gotta, try that again sometime. So it was a very small drop zone. There was no time to do it again that day, but very quickly thereafter, I met up with a friend who had also done a tandem in France. He just returned from France, and we decided to take our first jump course together.
Was that AFF? Was that a fast track program or
static line? Yeah, it was static line. We had round reserves, and I had a 300 square foot parachute and a big hockey helmet, and it was it was 1997. So it was the equipment was a little bit different back then, but luckily for me, I could do a terrible landing and be completely fine on that big canopy. It was just really easy to go backwards, I discovered quickly.
When did it occur to you that this could be something you could do as a profession?
Not until way later. I did it I was actually in a job that I loved. I was working as a clothing buyer for a retail chain in Canada, and I had gone to school for that, and I loved my job. I traveled all over the world, and I thought it was the greatest job in the world. But as I got into the job, 7-8 years into it, I of course started to get jaded and bitter about working for the man, and I was skydiving more and more, and I thought, wow, I'd really love to move to a place where I could skydive all the time, because obviously it's cold in Canada. We can only base jump in the winter. We couldn't skydive in the winter. And I thought maybe I should move to California, try and get a job there, and then I could skydive more. It wasn't until I met Amy and Curtis and I got married. Even then, at that point, I thought, oh, I'm going to get a job and just skydive a lot now that I'm living in Arizona. But he convinced me, well, wait, why would you get a regular job again? Why don't you work, shoot tandem videos, do this, do that? And we kind of looked at the numbers and we're like, you know what? Now that we're living out here, that's a great idea. And it just kind of organically happened. Then Amy started putting together the team for Arizona Arsenal, and the rest is history. That's
great. I would have assumed that when you got to Arizona, you were already a full-time skydiver. So that's really good to get that little bit of information there. That's a really good story. And Amy, you were already a professional snowboarder, weren't you, when you were younger?
No, I loved snowboarding. I went snowboarding every weekend,
right.
But never professional.
What was your start in jumping out of planes?
So I remember hearing about two women going skydiving. I was 14 years old when I heard about these two women, and I was like, what? You could go skydiving? I thought, oh my God. And I had this instant vision of flipping and flipping and flipping. And I was like, oh my God, you could just keep flipping. That must be so cool. So I went to the yellow pages in my phone book. Did you have those in the UK?
Yeah.
Yellow page. Yeah. So I got the phone book out. I looked for skydiving, and I found a place. I called them. I was 14. They laughed at me, and they said, you got to be 18, call back. I tried every year. I called them back, went back to the phone book. And then finally, when I was 18, I went, and I was with a crew of friends. Jeff Provenzano was there.
Really?
So yeah, Jeff Provenzano. He was doing his AFF level 1. He had done his tandem the weekend before, and then I did my tandem. And then a bunch of people kept doing it from that crew, but Jeff and I finished the AFF program. We were the only two that finished the AFF program. And eventually we moved out to Skydive Arizona together after college. That was in 98. And I worked at the Bent Prop, and he worked as a tandem packer. So I was bartending, he was packing tandems. We lived on a trailer on the drop zone. And I lived on a trailer for 10 years on the drop zone, and just kind of doing what I could to pay for jumps and have an inexpensive lifestyle. I was so carefree and so young. And then slowly it became, without any plan really ever, slowly it became more and more of a career.
That's how it goes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So between you, and I'm sure with the other organisers as well, how is your week-to-week involvement in the Project 19? Is it something you have to put hours of work into every week, or is it every other week, or is it once a month? Just give me an idea of how your workload is.
Well, right now this is a great place to announce it.
Are we allowed to talk about it? I
think we talk about it.
We talk about it.
Oh, my skin
developing a Project 19 app. So we've been spending a lot of time on this lately. I mean, to answer your previous question, the time and commitment's all over the place. Some weeks it's a little bit, some weeks it's a lot. But right now what we've been working on is an app kind of inspired a little bit by Dan BC's talk about how important visualizing was to him when he was injured, and how it really helped him win the world championship. We were talking with the WSN a little bit about that, and how so many people ask us all the time, oh, can I download your video so I can see how this is done? Can I download your video so I can see how that's done? And how do I get started? I don't know what to look at. There's no resources. So we're developing a visualization app that has videos for different elements of big wave skydiving that's specifically geared towards Project 19. There's going to be a little bit of other stuff in there too, but we're super excited about it.
Wow, that's great news off the shelf. Amy, if I can ask you, from the previous record, 60, was it 65 in 2016?
65, yeah. 65, and that was in 2016.
So scaling that up to 100, 101, how much of a technical challenge is it? Is it just more people, or what's involved to bring those more people into it?
So it is a 50% increase from the last one. And I didn't realize that at first. I thought it was like a third, because I was just doing the math wrong. And it's a 50% increase. That's a lot. We're like, get training, everybody. But that's all it is. It's getting the girls fired up and then giving them the resources to train. And what I think is so beautiful about this mission is, in general, people, you mentioned this earlier, Regan, it's really nice to have a purpose tied into your skydive. And this is a really cool opportunity for every girl that's involved, as well as every other girl that's just kind of watching the situation and kind of dipping a toe in it a little bit. So getting the girls fired up about it, first step. And then setting up the training. And then that's why we came up with the concept of doing these regional captains to do smaller events, so people can start doing, once you can fly head down, you can start to do small groups. And then that was phase 1. And then phase 2, we did like a little bit bigger groups, 20 ways, 30 ways. And then phase 3, we've done a bunch of phase 3 already in Arizona. Those are 40 ways, 60 ways. And then phase 4 is the record. So we just kind of laid out this training plan. We have to revisit and replan that, and, obviously start by safely getting current, and then, easing our way into it, and kind of readdress where we've gotten to so far, and kind of replanning that. But the basic idea is training our butts off.
Yeah. Well, it's a great story, and it's one to follow. And I hope I can come back to you in a few months' time and just to see how the progress has been, and to find out what's been happening with the Highlight Pro team. What's the schedule for Highlight Pro? Have you got any more things lined up in the next few weeks and months?
Yeah, we do. So we have a training camp coming up next week, which I'm excited for. I'm really happy that we're going to all get together and do some training. And then we have a demonstration jump. Our next up is Nashville. That's August 18th. And then we have a demonstration jump in New York. I'm really excited about this one. Can I tell you a little bit about it? Do we have time?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All the time in the world.
So fun. It's going to be so fun. So we are on August 26th. It's Women's Equality Day. It's also, so on August 18th was when it passed in Nashville, and then that's when the 19th Amendment passed, and then it was ratified on August 26th. So on August 26th, we're going to be jumping into the Bronx, into Woodlawn Cemetery, and we're going to be bringing yellow roses, which yellow was the symbol of if you were pro-suffrage. So it was the symbol of that movement. You wore red if you were anti-suffrage. So we're bringing yellow roses to the graves of a few of the original suffrage women. So Elizabeth Cady Stanton, she's buried there. And we're actually working with her great granddaughter. She's local to that area. So we're bringing the suffrage colors, suffrage flags, and the roses to the graves. And then it's going to be all live feed. And after that, it's going to cut to a statue reveal in Central Park. It's the first statue of real women in Central Park. So there are some women, but it's like Tinkerbell or like Cartoon Cat. They're not actually real women that existed. So this is the first statue. It's going to be Sojourner Truth, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Susan B. Anthony, and they were three of the original women that wrote the 19th Amendment. So it's a statue beautiful of them writing the 19th Amendment. So, and then throughout the day, there's a whole series of things that are going to be happening for Women's Equality Day. So we're going to kind of kick it off with that jump, and it's very much commemorating and like with gratitude, the whole, yeah, so
wow.
Excited.
All right, we'll put that date in the diary. That's definitely one to watch. Sarah Curtis, Amy Chmelecki, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you both.
Thank you, Regan.
Thanks, Regan.